There comes a moment in every person's life when the mirror stops lying, when you finally stop seeing who the world told you to be and start seeing who you truly are. For years, you've been carrying the weight of opinions, expectations, and judgments, as if the world handed you masks and said, "Wear these, fit in," but deep down, you've always known, you were never meant to fit in, you were meant to awaken. This truth, once you see it, will change the way you see yourself forever. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It whispers in the silence. It comes when you're alone, when you've lost everything fake and are finally face to face with yourself. This isn't motivation. It's revelation, a reminder of who you are beneath the noise, beneath the self-doubt, beneath the scars. You're about to see yourself, not as broken, not as behind, not as lost, but as becoming. Welcome to Stoic Mindset. There comes a moment in every man's life when the noise of the world fades, when every opinion, every judgment, every demand loses its weight. It doesn't happen loudly, it happens in silence. A quiet realization that the person you thought you were was built almost entirely on what others told you to be. You were praised, and you felt valuable. You were ignored, and you felt invisible. You succeeded, and you felt worthy. You failed, and you felt broken. But beneath all of that, something constant was always there and changing, steady, untouched by praise or criticism. That something is you. Most people live their entire lives never meeting that version of themselves. They wear masks, one for approval, one for love, one for survival. They chase validation like thirsty men chasing a mirage, believing that once someone finally sees their worth, they will finally feel complete. But the truth is the opposite. You only feel complete when you stop needing to be seen. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters." What he meant wasn't only about external events, it was about identity itself. You cannot control how the world defines you, but you can control how deeply you believe it. The moment you stop letting the outside world decide who you are free. Freedom isn't found in possessions, status, or relationships. It is found in self-ownership, the ability to sit alone and still feel whole. When you no longer beg for recognition, you start to recognize yourself. Think of all the years you've spent trying to prove your worth to teachers, parents, lovers, bosses, even strangers online. Think of how often you've shaped your behavior just to fit into someone's story. The truth that will change how you see yourself forever begins here. You are not the role you play in other people's lives. You are not someone's disappointment, someone's pride, someone's partner, or someone's mistake. Those are fragments, temporary reflections in other people's mirrors. You are the awareness behind all those reflections. You are consciousness itself, silent, calm, observing. When you realize this, the need to impress dies, the fear of rejection dissolves, the weight of comparison disappears. Because how can the ocean be jealous of a wave? The ocean simply is. And you are that ocean, deep, vast, and unaffected by the surface storms. This realization doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, as you detach from the noise, as you begin to see how much of your pain was never truly yours, but inherited from culture, from expectation, from fear. The mind loves to cling to identity. It says, "I am this," or "I am that." But who were you before anyone told you who you were supposed to be? Before society handed you a name, a title, a role? That's the truth. You must return to the pure awareness that existed before all conditioning. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." True bravery isn't facing an enemy outside. It's facing the truth inside. It's seeing that the self you defend so fiercely is mostly illusion. Every label you wear, rich, poor, successful, failure, attractive, unwanted, is just a story. And every story can be rewritten the moment you decide to stop believing it. The greatest prison isn't built of walls, it's built of thoughts. I'm not enough. I need more. They must like me. These are invisible chains that keep millions enslaved. But once you see the chains, you can never unsee them. Awareness is the key, and the lock opens from the inside. So the next time you feel small, remember this. The world didn't shrink. You shrank yourself to fit its expectations. You dimmed your own light so others could feel comfortable in their shadows. But the truth that will change how you see yourself forever is this. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to wake up. You've been told since childhood who you are. You're too quiet. You're not good enough. You're special. You're smart. You're average. All of these words cement with love. Some with carelessness became bricks in the wall that shaped your identity, and you believed them, not realizing that each label was a cage, gently disguised as definition. That's how most people live, trapped inside ideas they never questioned. They think they know who they are, but what they really know are the voices that formed them. Parents, teachers, society, friends, each one carving a piece of their reflection into your soul until you began to believe that reflection was your face. But here's the truth: you are not what others have told you. You are what remains when all of that fades. The Stoics taught detachment, not because life is cruel, but because attachment blinds you. You become attached to the opinions of others, to your image, to the need to be someone. You chase achievements to validate a self that never needed validation in the first place. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things." The same applies to ourselves. It's not who we are that causes suffering, but what we believe about who we are. The gap between the truth of your being and the illusion you defend is where all pain lives. When you truly look within, when you strip away the noise, you find something ancient and quiet. You discover the stillness beneath your thoughts, and in that stillness, there's no comparison, no competition, no fear. There is only awareness, pure, eternal awareness. But the ego doesn't like this truth. It survives through stories. It says, "I need to be successful," or "I need to be loved," or "I must prove them wrong." It keeps you running toward an imaginary finish line. You wake up every day thinking you have to become something. But tell me, who is this you that needs to become? The one who feels unworthy, the one built by others' opinions, or the silent observer who simply is? The mind fears silence because, in silence, the false self dies. And when it dies, all illusions crumble: status, pride, appearance, comparison. What's left is truth, and truth needs nothing to exist. The moment you stop defining yourself, you begin to live. You start seeing how temporary everything is: your youth, your possessions, your reputation. Even your name is borrowed from language. Nothing that can be taken from you is truly you. Imagine watching your own life from a distance. See yourself working, worrying, achieving, losing, laughing, crying, all of it happening like waves on the surface of the sea. And yet, beneath it all, the ocean remains still. That's you. That's who you've always been, the unchanging awareness beneath the changing events. The illusion of self is like a costume worn for a play. You become the role so deeply that you forget it's a performance. The world applauds, you smile, you bow, and then you keep acting, thinking that if you stop, you'll disappear. But you won't. You'll finally wake up. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you constantly think you are not enough, your soul starts believing it. If you think you are your past mistakes, your spirit carries their weight. But when you think of yourself as awareness-free, present, whole, you stop being a prisoner of thought. You begin to understand that your worth has never been measured by achievement or approval. It has always been intrinsic, like the light of the sun. It doesn't need permission to shine. The moment you grasp this, life changes. You stop chasing and start observing. You stop reacting and start responding. You realize that your peace was never lost. It was only covered by noise. You will still face pain. You will still face loss. The world will still test you, but your response changes. You no longer break when others misunderstand you. You no longer need to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding. You no longer crave recognition from those who cannot see, because you have finally seen yourself. And once you see yourself, truly see you, you can never go back. The illusion no longer holds power. You begin walking through life with quiet confidence, calm presence, and unshakable strength. People around you notice. They sense something different, a stillness that cannot be disturbed. A man or woman who no longer seeks validation is the most magnetic presence on earth. Not because they speak loudly, but because their silence speaks truth. The world will call it mystery, confidence, or charisma, but it's none of those. It's simply alignment with your truest self, the one that existed before you tried to become anything. Once you've glimpsed the truth, the real work begins, learning to live from it, because the world won't stop demanding that you play your old role. People will still expect you to react, to argue, to please. Your mind will still whisper the old fears, but this time, you'll know they are only echoes. You'll hear the voices of insecurity calling you back into the cage, and you'll smile not with arrogance, but with understanding. You'll know those voices can no longer command you. Each morning becomes a quiet practice. Before you reach for your phone, before the world floods in, you sit in stillness even for a minute, and remind yourself, I am not my thoughts. I am the space in which thoughts appear. This small act changes everything. You start seeing that life doesn't need to be controlled. It needs to be witnessed. Control is born from fear. Witnessing is born from trust. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength, in this context, isn't aggression. It's serenity, the calm that comes when nothing external owns you anymore. When someone insults you, you no longer feel attacked. You see their words as reflections of their own turbulence. When plans collapse, you don't panic. You observe, breathe, and act from clarity rather than chaos. That is living from the still point. It's not withdrawal from life. It's deeper participation. You engage fully, yet remain unattached to outcome. You give your best, yet stay free from the need to be seen as the best. The Stoics practiced this daily. They would visualize loss not to invite sadness, but to train the heart in acceptance. When you understand impermanence, gratitude becomes your default state. Every breath becomes a gift, not a guarantee. Every relationship becomes sacred, not possession. Every moment becomes enough, because it exists now, and gradually, something extraordinary happens. The battle inside your head quiets. The constant comparison, the need to measure yourself fades. You stop asking, am I doing enough? And begin asking, am I being present? Presence is the highest form of intelligence. It's not learned, it's remembered. Children live in it naturally. Adults forget it while chasing the future. But when you return to it, you start noticing the small miracles again. The warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of rain, the pulse of your own heartbeat, reminding you you're alive. And in that aliveness, you realize something profound. You've spent years looking for meaning, yet meaning was never hidden. It was overlooked. It lives in the act of awareness itself. Meaning isn't in the destination, it's in your perception of each step. The way you tie your shoes, wash a dish, greet a stranger. When awareness touches even the simplest act, that act becomes sacred. Seneca said, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. Living isn't about accumulation, it's about refinement. Refining the mind, the heart, the soul until only clarity remains. This clarity will sometimes feel lonely. When you awaken to truth, you might find fewer people around you who understand it. That's natural. Most prefer the comfort of illusion. But solitude isn't punishment, it's purification. In solitude, you learn to enjoy your own company. You start realizing that peace was never about who surrounds you. It was about what you carry inside. There will be days when you fall back into old habits. Days when ego returns disguised as ambition or hurt. Don't condemn yourself for that. Observe it, smile at it, begin again. Progress is not perfection. It's awareness. Awareness that returns again and again. Like the tide that always finds its shore. And slowly, without effort, the truth you once glimpsed becomes the way you live. It's no longer a lesson, it's your nature. You walk through crowds without losing your center. You face chaos without losing your calm. You love without clinging. You act without expecting. You serve without seeking reward. That is freedom, the kind the Stoics wrote about. The kind no empire, no person, no circumstance can take. Pain arrives without invitation. Sometimes it wears the face of loss, sometimes the mask of failure, sometimes it hides inside silence itself. Most people spend their lives running from it. They numb, distract, or deny anything to avoid sitting with what hurts. But the Stoic path is different. It teaches that pain is not the enemy. It is the messenger that shows you where you still cling. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" He wasn't glorifying suffering. He was pointing toward perspective. Pain itself is neutral. It becomes poison or medicine depending on how you hold it. When you resist it, it expands. When you observe it, it transforms. In the simple act of staying present with your discomfort, you discover that it has edges, that it moves, that it is not infinite after all. Breathe into it. Let it burn away the illusions still left in you, the illusion that life owes you comfort, the illusion that control guarantees peace. When you let those illusions die, what remains is strength, not born from hardness, but from surrender. You begin to see that everything changes. Every joy, every sorrow, every face you love is part of the same river, forever flowing, never once the same. impermanence is not tragedy. It is what makes beauty possible. The sunset is precious precisely because it ends. The flower moves us because it wilts. To love something deeply is to accept that it will pass and still choose to love. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. We waste it wishing moments would stay." But once you understand impermanence, you stop begging the world to freeze. You start tasting it while it lasts. You look at the face of someone dear, and you realize, this expression, this breath, this version of them exists only now. You let gratitude replace attachment. This changes how you relate to loss. When someone leaves, you don't drown in despair, you bow in respect. You thank life for lending you that soul for a while. You understand that everything you lose externally returns internally as wisdom, as compassion, as depth. Grief softens into grace. Anger dissolves into understanding. And in that understanding, you stop fighting time. You move with it, not against it. Each day becomes a farewell and a beginning. You rise in the morning knowing this sunrise will never repeat. You go to sleep knowing this day was a once-in-eternity gift. And because you know that, you live fully, not anxiously, but intentionally. This awareness of impermanence turns ordinary moments into sacred rituals. The sound of wind through trees, the taste of water, the warmth of another's hand, they stop being background noise and become the heartbeat of existence. The Stoic does not detach to avoid feeling. He detaches so he can feel everything without drowning. He does not numb himself, he refines himself. He feels pain, but he does not become pain. He feels joy, but he does not chase it. He becomes the space that allows both to pass freely. From that space, peace arises, not the fragile peace that depends on circumstance, but the solid peace that comes from understanding truth. Nothing is permanent, yet nothing is ever truly lost, because the essence of life, awareness, consciousness, being, flows through all things, and you are part of that flow. The body changes, the story changes, but what witnesses it all remains untouched. When you realize this, you stop fearing endings. Every ending becomes a doorway, every loss a teacher, every silence a return home. You no longer ask, "Why did this happen to me?" You ask, "What is this here to teach me?" And life answers not in words, but in peace that quietly fills your chest. There comes a moment, after all the searching, when you stop chasing and start noticing. You look around and realize that everything you were running toward was never separate from you. Peace was not hiding in some distant future. It was waiting inside every breath you had been overlooking. You understand now that nothing external can complete you, because nothing external ever broke you. The cracks you feared were not weaknesses. They were openings through which awareness entered. Every heartbreak, every failure, every rejection was life's way of polishing the mirror of your soul until you could finally see yourself clearly. You begin to laugh softly, gratefully at how hard you tried to become what you already were. The striving ends, the pretending ends, only presence remains. You walk differently now, calmer, slower, with a kind of invisible gravity. Not arrogance, but you don't need to announce your worth. It radiates in your silence. You don't need to prove your goodness. It's seen in your steadiness. People will still misunderstand you, but that no longer shakes you. You see them through compassion, not defense. For you know that everyone is fighting the same invisible battle to remember who they really are beneath the noise. Your life becomes simple again. You eat when hungry. You rest when tired. You speak only when words serve truth. You start choosing depth over distraction, meaning over attention, solitude over noise, not because you reject the world, but because you finally love it without needing to possess it. This is what the Stoics called living according to nature, not living as nature's ruler, but as its reflection, balanced, humble, free. When rain falls, you let it. When seasons change, you move with them. When people come and go, you bless their paths. Nothing is wasted. Everything is part of the unfolding. The self that once clung to control dissolves into trust. Trust that whatever comes is right on time. Trust that whatever leaves was never yours to keep. Trust that life, in all its chaos, has always been your greatest teacher. And when doubt visits, as it sometimes will, you return to silence, to that still point inside where no opinion can reach you. You close your eyes, take a breath, and remember, you are the awareness behind every thought, the sky behind every storm, the truth behind every story. That realization changes everything. It doesn't make life easier, it makes it lighter, because now you know you were never just a name, a body, a role. You were the witness of it all, untouched, eternal. So live, not as the world tells you to, but as the truth within you whispers. Walk gently, speak honestly, act bravely, and love deeply, knowing that nothing you give is ever lost. And when the day ends, sit in quiet gratitude. Look back, not with regret, but with wonder, for every step, every fall, every lesson brought you here, to the moment you finally saw yourself as you truly are, free, whole, enough. That's a Stoic mindset. Remember, nothing outside you can define you. Your peace is your power, your silence is your strength, and your awareness is your true self. Walk with calm eyes and a steady heart, and let this truth change the way you see yourself forever.